artists around the world, teaching artists around the world, artists around the world,
Oh, yes.
And
teaching artists around the world, artists around the world.
I don't see anything. Okay, it's okay.
Mm-hmm. Now we are doing it.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's see what we have here. Webcam. Cycle to available webcams. Okay. And your turn. Icon hand. אני רוצה את זאתי. לא, בעצם את זאתי.
תגידי שלום לכולם. כל
Hi everyone.
הסטודנטים.
Hi. Shalom. Anybody home?
Yes.
You cannot hear them.
This is
So
starting
it's
to
our
feel
stage.
bizarre. Okay, it's starting to feel bizarre. People are watching us and we can't see them and we can't, but we can see no people. There are 70 people. Hi there.
Hello.
It's now noon at yours. Okay. So, Yael,
So
what do you-
they're chatting and saying hi to us.
please send my regards. Can you have the files together or on my side or at yours that we will know what we have? Oh, here I see now what you prepared. Yes, okay, I have it. Media browser, good.
תגידי להם מי את.
תציגי אותי.
Okay. So here is hi everybody. Good evening. It's 6 o'clock in Berlin, and the Galit is in Brussels. It's the beginning of the Shabbat, but we are doing this talk with you. Here is Galit Eilat. I met Galit on her last day in Amsterdam in 2000. And it was my first year at the Rijksacademy, this 2 years residency I enrolled between 2000 to 2001, end of 2001. So that was quite a mystical meeting because she was just about to leave to Israel to open a new art center in Holon, which is a city next to Tel Aviv, periphery, a small new art center, which actually was called the Israeli Center for Digital Art.
The Israeli Center for Digital Art or Digital Art Lab, if we didn't want to have the Israeli.
Yes, so we can remove the Israeli and we focus on the idea that it's the first time there is a digital art center. And Galit was the founder of the center and worked there for many, many years and curated many, many, many exhibitions. And my first ever solo exhibition was in the frame of Galit invitations to come and, yes, my first 3 video works ever done was actually in the exhibition Galit curated. So we know each other for 20 years. We worked for many, many years on many different projects. Yes, it's a very, very interesting part of my upbringing as an artist. So, yes.
Yeah, I met Yael in the Rijksacademy when she was in the Rijksacademy, and I remember us like watching your work, sitting on your bed, and the television was just here, like 2 centimeters from our nose. So it was it was super small. Yeah, it's true. It was the first solo exhibition that you had in Israel. So I want to, probably we'll have more time with Yael, so I will try to imitate. It's quite hard to talk to people that you don't see. But I thought what it will be to talk today and also to talk about Yael work in kind of a bit of a zoom out of what she's doing now, or to ask how she arrived to where she is, and to show something that I think it was there, it was focused, but it was not thematically termed in the way that I can see her contribution today, and I thought it would be nice to do it with you. We are quite in a rough time. I don't know how each one of you, I don't know how you're experiencing the time, but it feels a bit, I thought about this morning that we are all in kind of a reality show. And we can't like plug the computer, close the television or whatever. We are all the time in this, if we want it or not. And it's create a lot of things which are, I don't want to talk directly politically, but to see somebody that doing a manipulation, Trump doing a manipulation in real time, and all the broadcasters, everyone that narrate the numbers or whatever, like start to tatter, like they didn't know what to do with themselves. Like it was quite amazing moment that everybody felt trapped because it was clear that he's doing something and they can't stop it. So some stopped the broadcasting, but in general, you could see the stress that it was in real time and you couldn't do anything. And it was clear that he's heading to something, that he has a plan. So I think the Big Brother style create a very strange program, a very strange culture around them. That the one that cheating, being the bad, beating, doing all the kind of things that are not on the good side of the map. It's the one that got the point, and usually it's the one that's winning in different kind of extreme or whatever, a Big Brother, or reality show. So it leaves with my feeling, in very broken society, in very lonely and careless. So I thought it would be nice to look at Yael's work from the sociological perspective. There is, we talk a lot about today, imagination, everybody, radical imagination, political imagination. There is a thing that's called radical imagination that was invented, was written in the US and many years ago, and it was not accepted because of the character of the sociologist that wrote it. And today it's one of the basic things that you study in sociology. He was very much against the university and the way that sociology was taught, because he felt that it's reproduction and inequality. So the sociology basically work to reflect the elite and not the wider society. So he started to create. So of course it's a political project first of all, but it's also sociological, because what he tried to look, it's the relation between the one and the society, and it's something that today, with everyone is independent, the curator independent, the museum independent, the artist, the idea of interdependency, that to understand that we are working in a network, and if one of us doing something which is violent to somebody else, it's basically damage the body that we have together, the body of society. So in very simple way, kind to explain that he built all the method how to look at society. It's not just imagine communities of Anderson, but it's very much based on it, because each community or each society, each nationality or nation has stories, and each nation has a mythology, that people living with this kind of image, who they are and what they are. So it's entered from this direction, who we are, but who we are as a society, and try to see it ourselves with responsibility to each other. יעל?
את מדברת, לא ברור מי דיברת.
אוקיי, דיברתי על, sorry, it's in Hebrew. I spoke about the Miles that invent the sociological imagination, which published in 59. So everybody can find it. If not, I can put a link.
Maybe you can put a link on the chat.
Yes, I can. Yeah. I can. If I can see where is the. I don't
it's
see
on the left side, the live chat.
Yeah, I see the. Okay, so you can. I see. Yes, all right. Yes. Okay, good. So it's. Can you operate in a traveling time?
I don't have it on the.
It's a bit funny, but anyway. Yes, and it needs. You don't have, so what you have?
But I can go.
What you have from this period of time? It will be nice because this is Yael. There is one of her early works called Tramping Time, and maybe it's good to see even an image. She shoots a video at the Memorial Day, the time of the siren, and in Israel there is a ritual which taking place, I think, twice. Yeah, like it's the Holocaust, the Memorial Day for the Holocaust, and we have like for the soldiers and wars, which is one like night before the independence. And so there is siren for, I don't know, 2 minutes, 1 minute, and Yael can tell us. And everybody stops, so there is no movement in the street, and some people like even going to the balcony or to the window to show that they are standing. So it stands still for 1.5 minutes. And it's a ritual. It's a ritual, and this is why people like going to the balcony or to the window, that other people that are outside will see them, that they are participating in the act, which is to memorize, and I'm not entering if it's helped to remember or not. It's like this is the ritual that I think in terms of experience, it's very strong to everyone that grew up in Israel. Kids at school, it's like a special day that you go with the white shirts and everybody's standing together, and usually it's quite hot at this time of the year, and some kids are losing their conscience. It's like there is the tension and everything, so we remember it quite strongly. And Yael?
Yeah, so I can show a clip. Sorry, it's taking a moment.
And one of the reasons, like to start to look at Yael from the sociological imagination, because Yael, I think more than, I don't know if more, but it's one of the stronger part of her work. It's with every work or project she creates kind of a community. So early work started with people that she know, and it was the same people, so you can see it also in the film. So it's quite nice to look in perspective because you see them grow in time, friends or designers. But so Danny, the musician that she's working with, Noah, his partner, was in many of Yael's films. So she was used to travel like kind of with the circus, kind of the same people traveling with her from one project to the other. I think like today it's a bit different.
Okay, I'm ready to show a clip.
Good.
שומעים את זה? There is some technical. There's some technical problem going on here.
Hold on. Oh, I see something here. There you go.
Eli, can I help somehow?
Let's see now.
Eli, I don't hear you.
I'm just saying that's some technical problem. I don't manage to play it, but anyway, the link is posted on the chat, and we can continue.
Okay. All right. So let somebody write. Okay, you can hear it on my side.
תשימי תמונה שלה.
כן, אני אעשה how I can share screen here.
Nice.
Galit?
Yes.
Okay, we can continue.
You can't see it?
Yeah.
Never mind, it's posted, so the student can.
Okay. Wow! Look what I create here. All right. So yeah, maybe you can talk about this work, how you did it, because I think it was very strong work. Basically, you start your career with the work, and I remember international curator coming to Israel and asked me to take them to the bridge. So
can you put a picture?
Yes, sorry, absolutely. Yeah. So it's become, I think, this I would say quite quickly, an iconic work. So maybe you can talk a bit about not just how you work technically, but how you arrive to the moment to take this moment and to stretch it and to work with it.
Yeah. Okay. So I will try. I will try to contextualize a little bit how I arrived to making this work. So back in 2000, I decided to take the title amateur anthropologist, which actually now Galit moved me to another department, amateur sociology. But I will stay for a moment with the amateur anthropologist. So I moved in 2000 to Holland, and I thought, for me, why actually becoming an artist, and what do I really want to do? What is it that I'm interested in? So I was interested to understand the place I grew up in, namely Israel, because in a few years before I decided to leave for various reasons. So the idea of amateur anthropologist began with the idea that I would like to use the cameras observing my own society, and through that understanding the kind of the culture and my identity, my national identity, how it was shaped, the past that I went through and through the lens, through observation, through seeing the place from a distance. And this is really the moment of the sort of anthropology. I look at this tribe, or what I call this Israeli laboratory, the Israel laboratory, the kind of the organization and the social construction and engineering from a distance, and I started to document different events, different rituals conducted by the state, or military events, or social events, and I did not want to. I often went to Israel to document those events, and then I came back to Holland, sitting in my studio at the Rijksacademy, and looking at the material, and looking at this footage and trying to understand what this image creates. So it was a process of the process of editing was a very long process of actually how do I deal with these images and what kind of story or narrative I would like to tell through my personal experience of the images and the kind of emotional relation I have with this history that I personally experienced, but also to understand in the larger context how the mechanism of the nation state, how they create us citizens. And so Trembling Time was one. It was actually not the first work. Another work of mine was from a military base, because, as you know, in Israel, everyone has to serve the army. Everyone get drafted. I mean, today is very different, but still people need to join the army. But there is a much more understanding that maybe that shouldn't be the path that they should create for themselves. But I belong to a generation that joining the army was not a question. Of course, we know that when we're 18, we join the military and we go serve. And so this is a very traumatic experience for most of the people. So my first work actually in the context of the Rijksacademy was to go back to the memory of shooting for the first time, holding Uzi, the gun, actually. What it means, what it felt, and somehow through this experience talk about something that does not belong only to me. And the work, Trembling Time, is based on footage. Actually, intentionally, I actually wanted to film, and I did film the events of the Soldiers' Memorial Day that happens actually in two separate days, during the evening and then the second event happens the next day in the morning. And so I went with my camera to a bridge that became very famous to some people from the art world, but it's actually called, it's the Peace, it's the Peace Bridge. It's just a train station, and it's a bridge where there is an overview of the traffic moving between north and south of Israel, and also going to Jerusalem. So it's like a lot of traffic, and on evening, 8 in the evening, before COVID time, before the Corona time, it's a very, very busy street, and I did not know really what would happen, but I of course I sensed that there would be a lot of traffic, and then I can capture the moment that everything comes to halt. So I was very much interested in the moment that how the everyday life all of a sudden stops, and I was and then back when I took the material and watched it, I was really interested to kind of focus on the moment of everything comes to halt, and what this siren creates, basically a whole country, orchestrating a whole country, stopping their business, and paying respect to the death. And it is, I think it's quite fascinating. But I was also, it also comes from this also angle of choosing from the top angle, looking down the traffic, also represent my kind of also outsider to the event and kind of a more critical point of view to this event. So that's the context.
I think what's already created in those works, it's a few things. One, Yael talking about her identity, how it's created, and then you choose like a state ritual. and also a military state ritual, and say like it's kind of a strange decision on one hand. But on the other hand, since Israel consider or still young state, so how you create something that everybody share, because people came from different places, Jewish or not, but it's different society, different language, different way of living. So all those rituals that create the state. So for example, they moved the day of the memorial to the Holocaust, that it will be a week before the day of the Independence Day. So it's first it's Passover, which is symbolize freedom, and then 2 weeks after it's the Holocaust, and then it's the independence. So already, but this is Menachem Begin at the 80s, he changed and made this order to create this narrative of independence from slavery to independence. This is the narrative without people really noticing. This is what they are celebrating in terms of the narrative. So how to create the construction, the memory, it's very much made by the state and to create something that everybody share. If it works or not, it's another thing. But there is, and I think we will see maybe another work from the old ones. There is something that you can notice that Yael works, and I will give you a tip. There is a moment that she starts to slow down. It's not just in the film we saw, but in general, it's the sound and the image, and then this is the moment that you want your attention. So instead of to put everything on high volume and to get attention, you're slowing down, right? Or you used to do it like a lot in the early films. If not, I applaud you. No, it's Yael used also strong images, so iconic images, and later, if we have time, we will see also maybe the Zamach, part of the Polish trilogy, which the image become very close to, I would say, the kitsch or the fascist images of, or the impressive, like overwhelming images of Second World War of Leni Riefenstahl. So you can see how she tried to create the language that she is using, but also she started to create her toolbox, like what she want to use, the grammar, but also what kind and how to use it. And by watching the work, the way that they will build, you can look today at the work and to see what left from the beginning, from the exploration of the anthropological amateur. You want to try to give us like another?
Do you mean the Zamach? But maybe you can explain. Or
We will see just a bit, and then you can explain the film, and we will talk about it together maybe.
So
that at least the language, the visual language will be there. And then we can talk about like what image and why we use political imagination, why we use sociological imagination. Maybe till you're doing it, I will try to say the way that I understand because I think it can be a difference from others that use like radical imagination. It's they're talking about the future, and I think the way we are using the political imagination, sociological imagination, it's very much activating the present. So, and it's activating the present through our memory. So this is why Yael way of working, it's basically taking out the images that create for us, to find our identity. Playing with it, it starts to touch the idea of what is political imagination. Political imagination can be called, or what is a political, it can be called a place of an act. political act. So where it's no political act, it's not political. One will say, and there is other way to translate it. But I think what with imagination, whatever if it's sociological or political, it's something that it's already there. The radical imagination, the political imagination, any imagination, it's not fantasy, it's not will be created, it's already created. So the imagination, it's basically already there. It's something that's coming from past, present, it's the past, it's embedded, and we are using it. Or this is how we can construct our identity. And we can talk about artists. Artists expected to have, for example, imagination, or some people would say holding the imagination, I'm not sure. Because, for example, we can talk about my favorite subject about Picasso. So one of the greatest, or at least the most expensive, one of the most expensive and appreciated artists. But then we need to ask what kind of imagination, what he is sharing with us. And if I will go back to John Berger, so he would say that he have only, if, a sexual imagination and not anything that touching with the sociological imagination, because what we see on the canvas, it's his desire, and it's not a desire for society, it's a desire to hurt someone. So the question, if we can call it as imagination, because the image that we can see, or it's coming up from there, it's very much troubling or distorted. And Yael's work, if we will look at her work, so every work, she creates not just the work, but the community. Maybe if you don't find Zamach, I don't hear you.
Okay, I found Zamach on, not on your files, but on, wait, you can do also present media, your file.
Yeah. So if not, I will show also like the conference, because this
show a part of the Zamach.
Yeah. Right? Now where are my files? Can you guide me to my files? I'm doing it. I can do it. I have it in another. Here.
Here, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. לא שומעים כלום.
Wow, this is really like sophisticated stuff. Where am I? Oh.
I think you should go to present media, not to this, not share.
I have like thousands of windows open, so let me close them. Yes, now I know where I am. So not sharing, okay, and then to present
media.
Yeah, all right. Yes. Okay. So okay. Do you have sound? Thank you.
Liście zerwane przez wiatr nie wrócą wiosną, tylko serce ziemi przestanie pieśnią.
כך את הרגע האחרון המאושר שלנו יחד. זה היה בפתיחה של צ'וזן וזכנתה, הגלריה הלאומית בוורשה. שתתנו יחד בתערוכה, עד שנעמדנו מול ציורו של ברונו שולץ. פתאום שמעתי 3 יריות, ועולמי חרב. בבית החולים, שוב חשבתי שאני שומעת אותך לוחש לי, דנישקה, אל תהי עצובה, הכל זמני. באותו רגע...
גרמנים סייעו בידכם להיפטר מרובם, מרובנו. ואיני בטוח ששלטם של פולנים רבים נודדת בחמת געגועים. רק פולנים מעטים מררו בבכי כאשר אחרוני היהודים ששבו לבתיהם בקרקוב, לודג' וורשה לאחר המלחמה, גורשו בבושת פנים או נרצחו. רבקה, אליה אתה כה מתגעגע, איננה ולא תשוב עוד. סלבומיר יקר, האם לא זכאים גם היהודים למקום תחת השמש? רק תמימים גמורים יכולים לייחל לעולם אוטופי, שבו יימחקו 100 שנים של פרעות ושנאה.
נוצצת כטל על ניצן, אור השמש ישלח לך קרניים, אז יברח חיוכך כשושן. כי העלים שבשמיים זכיין, יברוזה יצלחנה, הפנים שבגזים לזריה, יצלחנה יתדיישיה. הדמעות שתזמתם przez wiatr, jebruza odwiosła na drzewo, Będziesz płakać, serce cienie, nie przestrzenie nic co
You will need to ask Yael to see the trilogy. I want to jump in. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. Not stop sharing. Present media. To work that connected to it, and then we will talk about it. I think it will be, yes. Also, it will be clear. Just think about it, that Yael now playing the state.
comrades, I can feel that I might be gone soon, but I know that you won't run out of strength and imagination to change the world. Ties and imagination are what we need to enable the social change that we promised ourselves when we summoned 3,300,000 Jews to return to Poland. What we want is to create a world in which such a plan would be not simply dismissed as utopian. I had a dream about what should be changed in Poland, but we need more dreams and imagination to change Europe and the Middle East. And I can promise you that these changes will be big and difficult to carry out. That's why I'm asking all of you to think about them together. Argue, debate, and choose those that will best serve our cause. The cause of the Jewish Renaissance movement in Poland.
The group of Israelis that coming every year, or especially around the spring, to Auschwitz and Birkenau, they're bringing their own kosher food from Israel. They're traveling with flags. Everything is arranged, and they are not mixing with the others, the Poles. Auschwitz, Birkenau. In general, you can enter without paying. You need to remember all those kind of institutes are non-profit. But from, I think, April until November 2012, you can't enter without a group. For a guiding trip, you need to pay 20 zloty, which is 4.7 euro for a guiding tour in Polish. For other guiding tour, it's 7 euro. It's any other language, if it's Hebrew or English. And the amount of people that enter last year, it's 1,400,000.
I'm thinking about the film industry, making films over the Holocaust, Spielberg, I don't know, Hollywood, making...
If you think we need to have more film about a second
No,
war...
I think we need
okay,
to
sorry,
use...
so I'm not here...
I think we need to use the income...
Copyright.
Yeah, copyright, for a Holocaust copyright, and then we can have some more money to donate to your project. And this would also have some implication on the Israeli movie industry, because so many movies are done about the conflict. We would have a lot of money to invest in Palestine, in Lebanon, wherever.
I think there is an inequality that, for example, in Poland, there are a lot of former concentration camp sites who are...
create another nationalism, which might be multicultural, multinational, good. It will be even stronger, the country, if it will have not only Poles but Jews. But if it's all about promotion of the state, then I don't know what we're doing.
As long as we do not abolish the concept of citizenship, we are not doing anything with the nation state. So we can change numbers, we can change the configuration for sure, but it is not true that we are changing the logic of the nation state. Today, universal human rights are guarded and protected.
I'm going downstairs to be with you.
One mechanism only, citizenship. And as long as that mechanism
Cool.
is there, perhaps we don't have an alternative. It's not to suggest it, but that is...
All right. Can I hang out with you? All right.
This is as exciting as this evening is going to get. And you're not using it. Or else you wait till this ends and you continue discussing again. Maybe then you will dance. I don't know. But maybe you try. Like, the world is really hard. Life is shit. Being Jewish is hell. But we have developed the fine art of pretending to be happy. And if you are planning on having all those Jews around, you might as well just practice the art of artificial joy. Yeah, it's a feel-good song about a lucky Jew that has a lot of children and no way to feed them. And if you don't dance to it, you don't have the heart. You do talk the money and Holocaust talk, but you start to scare me about being really Jewish, except for the money part. So stand up. Daniel will lead. Try to get some joy out of it.
bin ich a Masel dicker Jid. Oi, bin ich a Masel dicker Jid. Wie ich geh, wie ich steh, Herr, ich nur in den Geschrei. Oi, bin ich a Masel dicker Jid. Ai, 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 oi, bin ich a Masel dicker Jid. Oi, bin ich a Masel dicker Jid. Wie ich geh, wie ich...
increases in a matter of only 2 years,
You like that music?
exponentially more ever during the Oslo peace process because of that. Because there's still this feeling, I'm entitled to take your fucking land. So no, I'm sorry. Address the core issue first. Right of return for the Palestinians, what it means historically. What happened? What have you done and what you should stop doing? Because it happens today. I mean, today you find, I'm positive, I can bet my life on it, that today there was an incident, I didn't see the newspaper, but there should be an incident where a settler decides to take a plot of land in the West Bank. Sorry, so my historical reminder is because it happened today in the future, today in the present and in the future. And this attitude of Israel, it should fucking stop.
I know a bit about politics and I know how it works. Politicians, when they sit together, they don't agree on the right of anything unless they know what the other are going to give them in advance. It just doesn't work like that, you know? That because there is a situation whereby there is a zero-sum game, each other know each other's throat, and they say, well, if now I recognize this right, nothing guarantees me that the ramification and implication will be such and such. So usually when politicians sit there, they said, okay, you know, I would consider it, knowing that that would be the ramifications, implications of that would be sort of limited and narrowed and this and that way. Most of the Palestinians who would enjoy the right of return would go to the West Bank and not to Tel Aviv and Haifa. So there are a lot of arrangements, you know. I think this is how it works in reality. So just to come and to demand of Israel to do that, you know, it would be sort of the usual Israeli politicians say, fuck no, using your verb.
Reem, do you want to come quickly back on that?
One thing, I'm doing an Obama move here. Really, I mean, only 2 days ago or 3 days ago, he came out and he says, I'm for gay marriage and gay union rights. He knows that he's not, this is a state law. You know, this is according to state law. But what he knows that he did is he's saying, I'm with the right. And the right changes mindsets of people that will make laws and acknowledge things that will make a difference in their society. And he stood in the right position of history. I'm doing a politician's move by saying the right.
So how you create an image. So I think what Reem Fada did here, I think it's very much talking about this, how you start to create the image. So the image, it's, we can talk about the image, you know, which is like 3-dimension, 4-dimension, the image of reality, but the image of reality create in our head. We know that the image, it's not just the image that we see, it's also the image that we hear. Our ability to see images inside of our head, it's not just through the retina. And this is what Reem tried to explain. And also when she said, today it was an event. This is the image about Israel. It's every day, in the past, in the present, and in the future, the settlers will you know, violate like the Palestinian field, they will cut the olive trees. So this is something that's happening. So this was after the trilogy, I think after Venice, yeah, it was 1 year after Venice, I think it was in Berlin. So it was the Congress of the movement, a movement that never moved to anywhere and never started. But in Venice, when we showed the Yael's project, maybe this is important to say, and then you can talk a bit about what the project all the time touching reality and like taking 1-2 steps back. In Venice, we promised and we gave membership to the movement. People that want to come to participate in the movement to return the Jew to Poland would have a member, and like we had a gadget. I put also the magazine, like the interview with you. So this was to try to create this community, but on the other hand, it was very important for us, and this is why we applied to to have Yael's work in the Polish pavilion in Venice, because the Polish pavilion in Venice, it's as an embassy. Yes, the land, it's considered in terms of law, it's the way that it's a lift to the country, so it's belonged to Poland. And in the moment that Yael is invited to the Polish pavilion and presenting the Poles, it's an invitation by the state and not by the art scene. Venice, it's still the only, I think the only biennial, there are biennials still, that's having a national pavilion. So it's a nation presentation, and each pavilion, it's part of, it's like an embassy in terms of law, in terms of territory and who control it, and etc. So it was very much important. It was important to the project to bring it, to close it as possible to something that could happen, to a real invitation of the Jew by the Polish government. And if before Yael talk about like the state, how it create our identity, so we could see, you saw just briefly how Yael start to use those and to create those tools. So not anymore to observe and to search and to try them, but to produce them. Yours.
Yeah. So I just posted on the chat a link to the Polish pavilion, so you have you can look at it, how we installed the work. So
25 minutes. What are you gonna do until then?
This project entitled "Europe Bistan." It's actually a project that lasted I would say 7 years.
What?
Began in 2006 and ended at 2012. So 6 years. And it was never, I never meant to make a trilogy. I never thought of actually presenting my work at the Polish pavilion. This is a development that happened through actually working in Poland and building up my relationship with the place. So it actually started as an invitation from a Foxhole Gallery, art gallery that invited me to come to Poland and create a new work. And while I was traveling there, this idea of thinking what would happen if there will be a renaissance of the Jewish community in Poland, what does it mean, and what will be the impact, and the kind of what was interesting at that time is the 2000 the Polish intelligentsia was very eager to discuss that Jewish history, because most of them young people grew up during the communist time. They never actually met Jews, and Holocaust was never mentioned in their textbook. And suddenly there was a very deep need for them to discuss this history, and not only discuss. I mean, some of them really looked back into the roots to find out if actually they are somehow Jewish. And so that was a quite interesting time when I began to work there. And I was kind of, I think they were somehow waiting for such a person to say, hey, why don't you invite 3.3 Jews back to Poland? Maybe this is a good idea to change the society that, is 99% Catholic. I mean, you can see probably today what they came up with the abortion, banning the abortion law. And I think what is actually quite interesting to understand that such a project of the Polish, representing Poland in the context of Venice Biennial would never happen today. Today is a very right-wing government. I think nobody will sign up for a non-Polish to represent Poland, but also there is also a personal relation beside being Israeli. Also, my grandparents and great-grandparents are Polish, and so I have a personal relation to that place that I actually I never could study through my family. So yeah, Galit. Yeah.
Building a state, building kind of returning the Jew, creating the ritual, the anthem, the logos, and then she disappeared. Like we have everything. But if we think about it, there is something about creating identity and flag, and today it's less strong, the image, but if we think about the gay community, it was the first community that had a flag. So it was the same flag everywhere, so without state, without a citizenship, but it was a flag that was everywhere, identified the people, who they are, that you can use it. So this symbol, and I think it was the first time that a community, or it's even not a community, the flag made kind of global community that share at least one image, if not other things. But this was very clear, and everybody accepted and embraced. So following the process of the state. I want to show something else, because I think this is I'm quite moved to see your work after so many years, to go back to it. I need to say, and I hope it's good, because I think it creates also certain logic. The folder here, yes. Where is your files? Where it's I have only, do I see them here?
What are you looking for?
Something a bit more contemporary, and then we can talk about what happened, what it's there.
Like The Undertaker?
Yes.
Okay, this is a Philadelphia-based project, so I'm very much connected to your reality.
Oh, is the meeting done? Oh, it's not. It was weird.
Yeah, it's a cool one.
What is it
It's
about?
the Philadelphia Museum of Art.
I know what's it about. What's this thing about?
It's complicated.
Come on, Daddy.
Okay, the rest you have to see another time. Yeah, I think we have to stop for questions. So
I want to just to summarize something about like political imagination or imagination in general, like to make it kind of more to objectify in terms of object, not objectivity. So one, I would say empathy. So to be able to imagine what other are feeling. So to be able to stand in somebody else's shoes. I would say this is one. And on the other hand, it's all our construction and agreement. And the strongest and the political one, it's in our law. The law, it's not exist. Law not exist, banknote not exist, LTD not exist, all those kind of things that we agree that they are part of our reality. A banknote, it's a paper. If we give it the value, and we agree to give it the value, and it's crossing the global. Everyone will give to €5, $5. It will not be. It may be exchanged different in the exchange rate, but everybody we agree. There are certain things and more things that we even think about that we as I don't want to use society, but people that living together globally at the same time agreed on the thing that we not agree. So out of this, we can see how we can create the construction, the myth that we are living together instead of all the time to destroy them. So I would say that this is where it's the political, it's the agreement of the things that do not exist. And we create them, we make them, we give them the value of what they are. So art, law, I think in this term really share the core of imagination. Question, sorry. Guys, you turn.
Sean Damani.
As long as there is any kind of imagination, I would say yes. And if art important in general, we can ask also this question. Yeah, I think it's questions that you can also ask.
yeah, I'm gonna stop co-hosting you, and I will have
Oh. You co-hosting me, Yael?
Yeah.
Me and Elias? Come on, Elias, get in here.
Hi.
Hey, hi. So, Elias, did you enjoy the video?
I didn't even know what it was about, so I got to hear what it's about before I know it.
All right, fair enough. I got a question for you. So, when you produce a project, can you talk about, you work in film and video, and I know that, you know, it's a question around distribution and audiences. You make a project. how much do you think about like the distribution mechanisms of your project or who the audiences are reaching? You know, certainly like doing the Polish Pavilion, you understand the kind of space in which it's going to operate. But then sometimes when you're working in film and video, it's unclear the space in which the kind of film will act. How on top of the distribution channels are you, and how important is that to the aesthetic and content that you make?
It's a good question. I would say that I don't really necessarily have control. So I'm happy that what is important for me. If we talk about the Polish Pavilion, it's and the Europe will be something quite important that was for us, but that we knew that people that we want to reach out and discuss these issues of a possible imaginative return of Jews back to Poland, and what kind of fear this such a possible reality will happen, because we encounter a lot of fear talking about it, fear from both sides, from the Polish and the Israeli side. Basically, very harsh comments, how you dare to send us to the place where our grandparents were killed, and it's the worst. It's basically Poland is the worst place for Jews.
Right.
But we wanted to reach out to a wider audience. Meant that we traveled with the work in Poland, in different parts of the country, and also in Israel. It was really important to reach out to anyone, not just art lovers, not just people who are visiting art galleries, and I really, for me more than anything, this work maybe. Luckily, 3.3 million Jews did not go back to Poland, but is to raise a discussion and talk about not the history, but to talk about the contemporary situation, the political situation, of both in Israel and in Poland and Europe, and of course it's even much bigger. It's the nation state is not just the Israel and Polish story. So it was important for me to reach out to a larger audience and diverse audience. So, I mean, the question of the addressee was really quite important question to think about. Who do we want to convince? And I think it's very important questions when you make art in general. It's like, who are you talking to?
Well, also too, because video art, has a second cousin called the film world. And certainly in the film world, as the budgets go up, the screening and the distribution mechanisms become extremely important. And it's a very delicate line between gaining kind of control artistically and then kind of slippery slope towards larger distribution, but maybe the edges kind of get, becomes more for popular consumption. Do you battle with that? Do you think about popular distribution? Is that ever on your mind with film?
Well, it's not. I would not say I do use a lot of cinematic tools, but I don't really make it's still art. I consider it's still artwork. It's not a kind of it will never end in cinemas. Nobody will distribute it as a film work. It finds itself often in film festivals or like a curated exhibition at the Berlinale, which we're in the context of expanded cinema. So it's not cinema. Obviously, it's like the expanded cinema terminology. What can you do with cinematic tools? What can you do with and I do work with big crews. I mean, you can see that.
You can tell the production values show there's something going behind there that's not just one or two people.
No, but also this is something that I built up over years. My first films were everything done. I filmed everything. It was a solo show. I mean, I showed up in wherever I filmed. I was just by myself holding a high-8 camera, and just filming, and then going back and editing, and then. But sound was important for me to work with a pro, and I also like the dialogue. So, but this until one day a friend, Nama Piritz, her name is, and one day she appears and she said, "I really would like to." Produce your work, and she's a documentary filmmaker, and And that's for the first commission of the Liverpool Biennial. I said, okay, let's try. And then she operates big machines. I mean, so she helped me to operate these big machines and understanding how to. It's something that I learned over time. Yeah.
Hey, could you co-host one of these other question askers, Debbie or Christine or someone too?
Yeah, sure. Debbie, wait. So we have to say goodbye?
Goodbye. It was a delight seeing you. Oh, she's gone. Come on.
Debbie. Hi, Debbie.
Hi. I think Nato rephrased my question beautifully, so I'll defer to someone else. Thanks so much.
But did you get an answer?
Yes, it's a longer conversation, but yes, thank you.
Okay. Christine. Hi, Christine.
She's coming.
Okay. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I was just wondering where you find the people who perform in your videos, what types of backgrounds they come from, if you consider them actors, or if that language is important at all. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good question because So it depends on the project, of course. The early works, it was just people I became friends with because they were just there, and I asked them if I can film them, and so they became the performer in the film. But when I started to stage films from, let's say from 2006, I basically looked for people who kind of looking the kind of look that I was interested in, and they were never actors. They were people themselves who were able to do the act that I asked them to do. And then there's another work where I work with leftist Israelis that they also became. It's a group that reorganized them, and they became. But then with the years, I started to work with people that were actually playing themselves. So the protagonist of the Polish trilogy is actually an activist, a journalist, leftist activist, and when I met him and we started to think about a project, because I was looking for a collaboration with someone from Poland, and he fitted perfectly to my vision, and I fitted perfectly to his vision. So it was a win-win situation. So he became the protagonist of the work, but he was basically in the fictional frame. He was playing himself. So he also wrote the text.
Okay.
Him and another activist, female activist. So his name is Slavomir Sharakowski. He's still very active, and of course he's doing many things for Poland. So he joined the project and became very essential for the project. And then it becomes a method. So the second and third, and the second film of the trilogy, I invited my friends, because they never been to Poland, to come and build a kibbutz community. So it becomes this realistic, the real moment of Israelis meeting Polish people. So there's another level of, so there is the fiction, but then there is the real moment of people really meeting and befriending them. So there's the two realities I was always interested in. So the real and the fiction, but the real. And then it became this method of inviting people playing themselves, also in the third part. So actually we actually wanted to invite the Minister of Culture to give a speech, eulogy for the leader, but somehow we managed to step out of it in the last minute. Yeah. So that's the long answer. But yes, it's And in my very, very last project, I work with real actors and non-actors. So I'm slowly finding my way. Yeah. But thanks for the question.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, Yael.
Hi, Sean.
So I was wondering if you could talk a bit about your aesthetic choices and how you think about there's the narrative and the story, and then there's these underlying kind of emotional qualities that seem embedded in the visual, in the visual choices, the stylistic choices that you're making, and how you're using different choices for each video. And I was wondering if you can talk about that. Like the Polish piece has a kind of communist visual aesthetic, and the last piece you showed had more of a, certainly an early American, but also this more maybe kind of quieter, poetic quality to it. So I was wondering if you could talk about that.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So the Polish trilogy is, I was very much hooked those days to propaganda films. I really looked a lot into the history of propaganda films and watched many, many films from a lot of Zionist films, propaganda, and of course, Nazis films. Leni Riefenstahl became really obsessed with her and her style of her composition, and also seeing that there are a lot of links between those Bolsheviks, socialist, Nazi, Zionist film. There's a very obvious aesthetics link, and so that was quite important for me. Thinking, for example, in the context of inviting Jews back to Poland, it would be interesting for me to create a sort of kind of propaganda film and really think about how ideology was created through aesthetics and the power of the image, so using the aesthetics and the very similar cinematic language, but actually talking about inclusion and talking about possibility of heteronormative, diverse society, sort of hippie in a way, kind of hopeful moment of inviting the others that always were the threats, that always stayed the others. So within this kind of, so it's a counter, in a way, fascist ideas, but within this aesthetics and this kind of what happens when those two meets and how is this affecting? And of course, it brings you directly to this era of the Second World War, because that's the time, or before even the 30s. And then you have no escape. You have to deal with that emotional moment, that history, but actually talking about the present. So also this kind of, it's an uncanny or a strange feeling space of being. And then I think for me making video works also is really a very strong tool to activate way of thinking and projecting oneself into the narrative and bringing people brings their own interpretation or emotional. So for me, the trilogy had to speak and be in dialogue, and I was very, very much criticized for using this outdated communist, Stalinist aesthetics. Especially, I remember even Galit was presenting the trilogy in Moscow, and people really protested. People stood up and say, "We cannot watch this. This is wrong for us." And I was not there. I was not able to go there, but it provokes a lot of emotions. It provokes antagonism, I would say, even. But I think for me, it's important to this kind of provocation to allow discussions. And I can tell that I received hate messages, but at the same time embracing the project, and it created a space to come back to this, the discourse, yeah. And then in the Philadelphia project is a very different. I'm complete outside to the U.S. and I come and I propose an idea. So we all should bury. You should all bury your weapon. And so it's about the burial of another. I would say like an idea that what if American will bury their weapons? What will happen there? Is it? But of course, there will be probably always critique. Who am I to say what Americans should do? But
I think you should say it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. Hello.
Gwen. Come on. Jesus.
Oh, sorry. I didn't realize. Hello, yeah. So, yeah. So I have a question about like it's always beautiful songs in your work. For example, like Inferno in 2013. Can you share how you pick a specific song or any relationship reasons? Because I feel like something like very like this style about cultural aspect in the song that you choose for your film.
It's a good question. The sound. Okay, as I think I mentioned Danny many times, especially in my class. Danny Meyer, with whom I worked for 20 years, I met him during the Dutch time.
It's going well.
We work very closely together, and we often think about the sound and how we want to kind of. It depends if we want to create a drama, or we want to create something more, the suspense through the sound, and something that is more abstract, or something that will represent the landscape, or we both really obsessed with bass sound. Actually, we really love it, but we try to control ourselves. But when it comes to songs, I worked with also few other Israeli songwriters, composers, like Maya Dunitz was one of them. She's also singing in the trilogy, and actually specifically for Inferno, it's actually made. It's a song that was written or already exists. Barbara Streisand is singing it. And it's a song about Yom Kippur, about the days of forgiveness, asking for we couldn't use Barbara Streisand version, so we got the rights to actually redo the song, and we recorded an Israeli singer, and we used it, and it somehow it fitted very much to the context of the film that is all about the days of forgiveness and then the destruction of the temple also. So that's specific. So each song is either written or we buy the rights to use it. We also work with the Towering Inferno, is another band from the 90s. They had also a song about, it's called Towering Inferno, but it's again a song that related to the Yom Kippur yeah. So it's very much connected to the subject, and we, as I said, we write the song also.
Yeah.
Specifically to song of, yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing. I really love it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you everybody for coming today to this talk, and see you soon. Thank you. Have a nice weekend. See you soon. Happy weekend.
Artists around the world, teaching artists around the